Right, so in this one, we are going to set a very simple search function into our product list so that people could actually search out products. It's fairly straightforward to do, and the way the search is going to work is going to have to do with the URL. What we're going to do is we're going to add a GET request call here, a parameter to the GET request, that is, and it's just going to add a question mark here, and then a query, and then something like MP3. So right now the list doesn't change, and we want to update our list view based off of that query. So to do this, we're going to jump into our product list view in our views.py, and we're going to override the get query set method. So define get query set, and it's going to take in self, args, and keyword args. Now by default, we want to get the standard query set, which would be the same as this, but for us, we're going to just say super product list view self, and then get query set, and of course with the args and keyword args, and then we're going to return that query set. So this is essentially grabbing whatever that query set is. Now what we want to do is actually get a query, so the search query, that is, and we're going to set that equal to self.request.get, all capitalized, .get, and then q being the query itself. You could also write out query, but this is the parameter that we'll be using, and we'll show you how to do different ones here in just a second. So we're going to have this query, and we'll say if query. We want to change how this query set is going to work. And we're going to change it by using something called Q lookups. So from django.db.models, import Q. And these Q lookups do quite a few things for us, but let's go ahead and see what we can do in just a second. So we'll do query set equals to self.model, so it's referring to this model here, .objects, and then filter. And now we're going to use Q for a complex lookup, so we'll say title underscore underscore I contains equals to query. So this query right here. And then if we do a straight line slash, it's an OR statement, and then we can do Q description I contains query. All right, so let's just see if this works, just to make sure that it's working, and then we'll come back and explain each part. Jump back into Chrome, and we refresh in here, and now this Q actually changes stuff. And then if we said bottle, it shows the water bottle. So that's nice that we now have this ability to actually search our products and filter them down a little bit more. And then if we had something with our description, so let's just say here, and we did question mark Q equals to here, it shows just the MP3 player, which again is coming off of the description. So that's a really simple way to do a search. Now what this Q lookup does is it takes a field title, which is this, and then we can actually search in here I contains, we can do starts with, there's all sorts of things that you can work with as far as the actual querying of a database or a filter. And this Q lookups also allows us to do multiple things like OR. So we could also say OR, and we could even do price is equal to that. So we'll say price equals to query. So let's go back in, and we say MP3 player is 1995. So let's change our query to being Q equals to 1995, and it shows that as well. So this is saying is exactly what the query is. So it gives us a little bit more of a complex lookup than the standard lookup, which would be just something like this. So a standard lookup, if I comment this out, would be query set equals to self.model.objects.filter, and we would just say title I contains query. This is a standard lookup or a standard filter that allows us to find it. By adding the Q filters, we can have multiple things that it's looking through from there. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. So now that we have this query, we can add this query into our context data as well, as in what they searched for. So inside of context data, we'll just copy this context, and we'll say query is equal to this exact same thing as the query. So it's grabbing that query. It's either going to be none or Q. So the way that this call right here does is it's getting the GET request, which is the URL itself right here. So it's going to get this whole thing, and then it looks for a parameter called Q, and then if Q doesn't exist, it sets it to being none. You can also put a default value for it being something else right here, or you could say true. You could do all sorts of default values here as a comma after that. And if you want to force the query to be there, you could do it like this, which would assume that that query is there. And if I do it now, then I get this multi-value dict key error, which essentially is saying that Q does not exist in a get request. So that's where you put .get, and it allows it to remove that requirement, and it's not going to raise that exception error then. And that's also true with post data as well. All right, so now that we've got this, we can actually create a search bar on our menu here, or a nav bar. So that's something that let's go ahead and do that. So jumping into gitbootstrap.com/components #navbar, we actually see an example of the search bar showing up in the navbar itself. So that's something what we're going to work with. So we want to go all the way down to this form call here. So this form is really what we're going to be using for our search bar. So let's copy that, and we'll go into our navbar.html. So in the navbar template, and instead of about and contact, I'm going to go ahead and comment these out and just put in our navbar here for search. And then we want to add an action to this form. And we'll say action is equal to, and it's going to be our URL, and it's going to be our product list, so products. We'll have to double check that URL, and then we close it off. So the action goes to products, and the method is going to be get. It's a get method. And then the input type is text, placeholder is search, that's fine, and then we'll just say name equals to Q, and that name is corresponding to the actual get call that we want, so Q something, so question mark Q is MP3. All right, so now that we've got that, we'll go back and we see that we've got this error here. That has to do with our price query call here, which we're going to leave out for now. We'll refresh, and now we've got this. So we have our search again, and now if I search MP3, I can actually run that search, or let's say towel or bottle, and now we've got bottle. All right, so we can actually see that it's actually pulling the search there for us. We can get rid of that search button if we'd like and just have it being enter. So if I comment this out, refresh in here, and just search for bottle again, press enter, it will actually do it for us. And if I log in, that search bar is just a little bit better. All right, cool. So that is how we do some basic searching inside of this product list. What's nice about this too is that we can actually update our query set in a little bit better fashion. So what we saw before is it's saying something wrong with price, so it's not allowing me to do price. So let's do another query set here, and I'll say query set 2 equals to this same sort of thing. So now I'll just say price is equal to query, and we're just going to put this into a try block, and we'll just say except pass. So if we get that query set of price, then we can combine the two query sets with QS, and using parentheses, this is going to be QS and QS2, and then we'll just say distinct here. So this gives us that brand new query set as long as this price works. So let's refresh to 1995, and now it's showing that MP3 player, and if I type out MP3 player, it still shows that MP3 player. So this is allowing us to use text as well as decimals, which is really nice. It gives us two options here, and then this .distinct means that we're not getting multiple. So if I comment that out and type out 1995, there's a chance that it will show two objects. Using .distinct, make sure that this combination of query sets is not giving us actually two objects, if that's even possible. In this case, it's not. So there we go. If you have any questions on how we did this search, let us know. Otherwise, let's keep going.